welcome back. I'm so excited to present my guests for this segment. They are Cory and Jojo Rankin, husband and wife, parents of 5, foster parents, and owners of Our Family is Strong. They work as a team to optimize entrepreneurial marriages and focus on restructuring and eliminating the invisible cracks entrepreneurship brings to relationships. They work with couples that still love each other, fortify the connection they already have, and business-proof their marriage. They've published multiple marriage and parenting journals and books and assisted their 8-year-old son in writing his first children's book. Welcome, Jojo and Cory. How are you guys doing?
We're
doing
fabulous,
great.
Monica. Thank you.
Yeah, so exciting to have you here. So I just read your professional intro, but tell the Summit viewers what you would really like them to know about you guys.
Yeah.
She's quite amazing. She's pretty much perfect.
I would just say, I think we are all on this bus of trying to do well, right? And we're all trying to become the best version of ourselves. And so in a nutshell, that's who we are. We're trying to become the best version of ourselves for our family, for our business, and for our children. So,
And we're trying to bring you along with us.
yes.
The ultimate goal and everything that we do is to build stronger families. As a foster parent, we've had 30 children in our home. We've adopted 5 of those, and not one of them has had a father present. And so ultimately, the goal that we work towards is that every entrepreneur, everybody that comes into our world can have both a thriving marriage and a thriving business, because we want children to have the best opportunity to be raised in a 2-parent household where they're confident, where they're loved, where they feel like they can accomplish whatever they desire to accomplish. And that is not the environment that we've experienced in foster care. And so we understand the challenges that entrepreneurship can bring. And so we want everyone to have both a thriving marriage and a thriving business, because life is so much better when our relationships are strong, when our relationships are healthy and fulfilling. A lot of people settle for average relationships, and we don't have to. And so that is our goal, that children can thrive, they can be loved, and relationships can thrive and they can be loved.
Absolutely.
What a strong mission and why. I support you 100%. So awesome. But I think for the time we have together, I want to discuss how emotional intimacy and physical intimacy are connected and how to keep them both strong during extremely busy seasons of life, which I can imagine with 5 young adopted foster children. And I'm sure that there's a lot that goes into all of that, plus building your business. Have you ever experienced a non-busy season?
No.
Our home is always busy. It's always been the rotating home. Like, I mean, we've had 30 kids over the past 10 years. Like, we've had a lot of trauma in our home. We've had a lot of turmoil in our home. And so for us, in order to keep our physical intimacy connected, we have to have our emotional communication and our emotional connection. And in order for that to happen, we have to be on the same page, right? Like, we can't just, one day be like, okay, well, if we just increase our sex, like, that's going to make everything better. But it doesn't. You have to have everything aligned, right? And I'm sure, Monica, you teach the same way. Like, you have to have more principles. And so for us, there was a certain point in our life where we had this revolving door of kids constantly. And it was creating this like tension between the two of us, because communication was off, our connection was off, intimacy was definitely off, like everything was off. And as soon as we started to get our emotional connection, having that one-on-one time together, it created the ability to actually have physical connection, because we were able to have alone time. We were able to create that, and it became so important to us.
And I think they very much match. The stronger, deeper the emotional connection is, the better, frequent, more quality and physical intimacy is going to follow. And I think one of the things that allows us to do that at a very high level is we very much believe the principle that marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is 100-100. And what I mean by that is you give your very best effort that you have to your marriage, to your spouse that day, and your spouse will do the same. And if Jojo is really having a rough day emotionally, she's challenged, or we've been to court with foster care, something's really difficult emotionally, she might be 20% or 30% or even 50% of her capacity, maybe 5% if it's a really tough day. And hopefully that's a day where I'm fairly strong, maybe 75% or 100%. And even her best effort and my best effort collectively, that's still better than 100%. And when we believe 50-50, on those days that we aren't the truest version of ourselves, we're below average in our quality of relationship. And so I think that's really been a principle that has allowed us to endure quite the significant trials. I mean, with 2 graduate degrees and foster care and working full time and starting a new business and COVID and 5 kids and all these things, there's a lot of distractions that could potentially disrupt our emotional connection. And the thing that becomes important is the emotional connection doesn't just happen. We have to talk about it. We have to share our feelings. We have to be open about it, because all of those things in life, those are my things in life that are pretty constant. Everyone has their own thing in life that is busy, that is filling their calendar, that is filling their thoughts, their mind. And if we don't talk about it, that's where our connection fades. And so share your feelings. Oh, I feel like I really struggled today. I need help. I just need some additional love. The house is a mess. Everything's crazy. Just love me. Just hold me. Just tell me how great I am. That might be what we're missing, because things get so chaotic. And if we will just go back to that, okay, how's our connection? If we are staying connected, are we really knowing how each other feel? Are we serving with love? Like, there's so much that we can do if we're alert of the connection that we have emotionally.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, because it seems like you guys are a really good team. You get a lot done. You just described that list of, like, graduate degrees and fostering these kids and having to go to court. There's a lot of things that have to get done in your household, I'm sure. But talk about how, if all the work of business and family life are getting done, why does having a strong emotional and physical connection even matter? What do you say to those couples who are like, no, we're a good team, we get it all done,
I would say it's not done right. And I don't mean that in any mean way or disrespectful way, but like, there is a better way. If you can communicate to your spouse and say, look, this is a part of my lane, and if I need your help, I'm going to ask you for this help, and this is part of my lane. But you can also merge the 2 lanes and have it become a joint effort. Like, we run our business together, we parent together, like we do all these things together, and it builds that emotional connection, because you have that team. You're not alone. It's not a lonely ride. And there is a better way. There absolutely is, because along the journey of life, we don't want to be alone, right? You can either settle, or you can have the best of the best. And if you just get those tools to be able to get the best of the best, that's it's phenomenal, and it's
Well,
magical.
and I think there's 2 examples that I'll give that I think will bring it into perspective. So if I have young kids, they love ice cream, they love treats, they love daddy dates, mommy dates, whatever they can get, as frequently as that's available. But if I tell my kids, let's go out for ice cream, and I go to Wendy's and get the smallest little frosty they have available, my kids will be like, okay, I got some ice cream. But if I say, do you want the little tiny frosty that's like 3 bites, or do you want the biggest one they have? My kids are going to say, I want the biggest one every time. And what's the difference? It's still ice cream. It's still a treat. It's still day night, but there's more to enjoy. They can enjoy it longer. They can be more satisfied. And I think that's where relationships really thrive. And
Mhm.
relationships they're good, but when we talk about failing in a relationship, it doesn't just mean divorce. It doesn't mean a toxic relationship. It doesn't mean just being mediocre or things like that. But failing in a relationship could be settling for average, settling for that really small ice cream when there's something that's better. How about we get the large one with M&Ms and whatever toppings on it? That is far more satisfying for my children if we go to Yogurt Land and they get the gummy worms and the sprinkles and all those things, versus the smallest ice cream that Wendy's has to offer that's plain. And so I think that's the same thing with our relationships. Although we can have something that's good or average or mediocre, if we're doing all the business things, if we're doing all the school things, the community things, the church things, whatever that is, but we're getting the small ice cream, we're selling ourselves short. But if we'll really focus on the emotional connection and serving and make sure that connection is deep, now we're enjoying something that's quite amazing. So that's one example that I hope brings out the best or gives you an idea. And the other example is my son plays flag football, and usually he's played on competitive teams and they have tournaments and things like that. For the summer, he's played on a little rec league. His friend invited him to play. They don't keep score, but the boys on the team, they keep score. They know if they're winning, they know if they're losing. And it's something that, yes, they're playing football and it's the same football, but it's not nearly as fulfilling for them because they don't know the outcome. And that's the same thing. Think about a rec league that doesn't keep score versus a competitive league where there's trophies, where there's champions and things like that. And that's the same thing. You can have a champion relationship or you can have a rec league relationship. Either way, you're married, but and I think that's where it comes down to the emotional connection. The more that you bond with your spouse, the better that will be. Because I can promise you, if JoJo does not feel connected to me, she her love language is words of affirmation and quality time, but she also loves physical touch. She feels that that quality time comes with that physical touch. But I can promise you that if she doesn't feel connected to me, or I've been
Yep.
unkind, or I haven't um been the man that I needed to be for her today or this week, she will not want me to touch her, period. Like, she won't want to hug. I can't leave. She's so incredible. I cannot leave the house without giving her a kiss. But I'm very intentional in making sure that I understand her needs, her wants, and her desires. So her needs are being met. But if I've been mean or unkind or haven't been paying attention to her, she'll like celebrate that she didn't get a kiss because I
I
left the house.
wouldn't celebrate, but
She wanted to celebrate, but that's extreme. And I'm trying to be extreme on purpose because I want you to see that
it's true. Yeah.
connection really matters, and not just an average connection, not just, oh, my wife likes this, but what does she truly like? What does she truly need?
What brings her
It
joy
Is
inside?
she willing to tell you, I'm really having a hard time with the kids, or your business is taking over. I really need you to step up in the home. Is she saying that, or is she just surviving? And that's the difference between really deep emotional connection and strong physical intimacy, is that, are you existing or are you truly thriving? Because life is so much better when we thrive, when we're the best we can be and not just average. We're not intended to be average, period. We are incredible individuals, all of us, that we have a huge purpose, and we're not intended to be average. We're not intended to be miserable in life. And so the connection is really where it starts.
Yeah, well, I loved your metaphors, both of them fantastically illustrated
Good
some
job.
aspect of that intimacy that we all crave. But I also love how Jojo pointed out the loneliness, because I think that that's really significant. Part of intimacy is being fully seen, right? And so if we're just existing and we're just getting all the work done, but we're not truly being seen and recognized and appreciated by our partner, that gets really lonely. So I
Well,
love,
and on top of that, is it okay that I go a little deeper too?
of
Like, we
course.
all have these insecurities, right? Whether they're physical insecurities, mental insecurities, like we all have them. And sometimes when we hide them from our spouse, we're not able truly to connect to them. And so on a physical level, on an intimate, like on an emotional level, it's very difficult to connect to someone that you don't feel like they understand your insecurities, or that they support you in trying to become better and become your best version of yourself, because it's very lonely if you're in that spot. And that's where it's like, there are tools to help you. There's coaches to help you. Like, there's amazing things that can do a lot if we just don't settle and say, this is just the way it is, because it doesn't have to be. You can have the whole yogurt land, right? Like, you can go get Frosties and get the amazing ones.
Well, just to build on that, there's going to be times when life is amazing. There's going to be times when things are very challenging, a death of a loved one, children leaving the home, lost a job, whatever it is. Life is hard. Life happens. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be things that are really great, emotional highs, emotional lows. And think about this, like, if I go back to the ice cream thing, I tell my kids, we're going out for ice cream, pick whatever you want. They're going to pick the large one every single time.
Yeah.
But now, if they've had the large experience in the ice cream, they've had that really fulfilling connection, and now I say, we're going out for ice cream tomorrow, and then I don't show up, I don't take them to ice cream, that's going to be the low time. That's going to be something that's very challenging. And my kids are going to cry if I've promised them something and I don't deliver.
And so will your
And that,
wife.
that's the same thing when life is really hard. If we haven't enjoyed that goodness of the large ice cream, we won't know how to endure those challenging times. We won't learn that, oh, let me dive deeper into my connection. Let's see how my spouse can help me overcome these challenging things. Because likely the same challenges that she have, I will have them if it's my grandparent or her grandparent or someone that is ill in my family. But what if it's about her close friend from when she was in high school? If that's the person that's having a struggle that's leading to her emotional um, downturn a little bit. If that, I don't know that person, I don't know those experiences, but I sure know how to love her. I sure know how to make sure that she's comfortable saying it. And the reason that Jojo talked about being seen and heard is because it's not good enough just to be heard when things are going well. I need to be able to care for Jojo at a level through our emotional connection that she's telling me, oh, what's not, when I ask her what's wrong, oh, not just the kids are how to cry and the house is a mess. When really she needs to tell me, I'm really having a hard time that my friend from X, Y, and Z is struggling, or and that's something that she's not going to tell me if my connection is not deep, if my connection has not been intentional today, this week, this month. And it goes in cycles. Like I could do a lot today and it doesn't mean I'm good for the whole month. Like I have to do a lot today and a lot tomorrow and a lot next week because life changes. Her emotions change, my emotions change, my trials change from day to day. And so it doesn't matter what I did last week or last month. What
It's
am I
all
doing
today.
today? What am I going to do in the future? And even if you're not where you want to be, that's a good thing. Tomorrow hasn't happened yet. You're in control.
And I would say also, like, to check to see where you're at emotionally with your spouse. If your daily contact and you're talking to your spouse is, how was your day? And they say, good, there's nothing left to it. It's probably a sign that you need to explore other options to be able to create that communication better, that emotional connection better. And so from there, that's why I say it's like, that's one of your first signs is, how was your day? Oh, it was good. If it stops there, then dig deeper, come up with more.
Yeah, so good. So you guys say that fading connection with your spouse can actually cost you sleep.
Yes.
So explain that because I think that's an interesting concept.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, if you think about it, if you have anything on your mind, right? And you're up in the middle of the night, what do you think about? That one nagging thing that's on your mind, right? And so, if it's your connection with your spouse, we need to feel like we belong at home. We have to. That's a must, right? We all need to feel like we belong. And when you don't feel like you belong to the person that's sleeping right next to you, then that keeps you up at night. It really does. It causes stress, it causes health issues, it causes all kinds of things, which trickles down into business, it trickles down into work, it trickles down into parenting, it trickles down to everything. So if you fix that connection with your spouse, then it fixes actually a lot of aspects in your entire life because you're able to have that companion, you're able to have that best friend, you're able to actually talk about the things that are bothering you and not keeping them inside because you're not afraid anymore. You're not afraid to talk to your spouse. It's not a, how was your day? It was good. It's becomes a, hey, how was your day? It was good, except for this was something that's been on my mind. It doesn't have to be where you're nagging all the time about something that's wrong, right? Like there's always happy things too. But when you have that emotional connection, the entire family thrives. The kids see it. We've had 30 kids over in our house and over the past 10 years. And let me tell you, when they come into our home and if they feel tension, it becomes this whole wire of craziness. But if they come into our home and they feel peace and they feel that we're connected and they see that we're on the same page, it becomes this unity where the kids are actually on the same page. We have a lot of kids, like we have 5 kids, you know, and so that can create a lot of turmoil. But if they see us on the same page, emotionally connected, they become emotionally connected, not only to us, but to each other. And it becomes this magical thing, which I mean, obviously real life is real, right? Like our kids still fight. I mean, they're kids. That's what they do. But when we have the control over our own emotions and our own relationship and build that connection with each other and the kids see it, it becomes this environment. And especially because our kids didn't grow up with us first, right? And so they were foster children, and every foster child that we've had is around dysfunction all the time. And so seeing something that is actually where they see a mesh and they can actually feel like they belong, it's amazing what they accomplish. I mean, you mentioned that our son is our 7-year-old, or now he's 9, but at the time he was 7 and he became a published author. We were his second foster home. But once he was given something that he could actually do, then he can thrive. And you give that to any kid. You give them that emotional connection and they can thrive. And so with the lost sleep, it can go in so many different aspects.
Yeah.
It can
There's,
just, it,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it could cause you so much worry that you don't fall asleep. It could wake you up in the night. And so you may not lose the sleep tonight, but what about tomorrow or a couple of days when you slept poorly through the night because
Mhm.
you woke up wondering, oh, the thing that I did I say sorry, or did I do something that really has pushed my spouse away? We got in a little argument before we went to bed, and that bothers me, and we faded in our connection a little bit. Like, I might not be able to fall asleep. I might wake up frustrated and thinking. I might have a dream about that, or I might just be my quality of sleep was so poor that I'm exhausted the next day or in a couple of days.
Or
And
you
so,
even carry it over in your relationship. Sorry to cut you off.
no, go
Or you even
ahead.
cut it over into your relationship where it becomes this, constant of taking score. And that's never healthy. That's not a healthy thing.
Yeah. And to your point, there is a lot of security, especially for the kids when they
Yes.
see their parents connected. So, we were talking before this call. I have 3 teenagers in my house right now, and then a preteen, right? And they love to roll their eyes and go, ew, when we kiss or hug, right? But you
Yeah.
can see
So
that
do our 5-year-olds. Don't worry.
right. You can see that they love it. It's a
Yes.
very secure um for them, and like it helps them sleep better at night when they know mom and dad love each other. Maybe they argue, maybe they disagree, but their emotional and physical connection is strong and they're going to be here for us. So that really is so important, and I love that you lived that out so well. So I want to get personal for just a second and imagine that one day you wake up after maybe a troubled night's sleep and realize that you've let business and kids and all of the stressors of life to take precedence over your partner. I want to know what you guys specifically would do to rebuild the relationship, reignite the spark, and bring the fun back into your partnership.
Well, and
Yeah.
before I can answer that question, I have to share this story. And so, my son, my oldest, this is a little hard to say, but my oldest, he was adopted through foster care. He came into our home at 11 months old. The reason he came into foster care was he was abandoned at Walmart as his mother was shoplifting. She ran from the security and he was left in the shopping cart. And so that's the very short version. But with that, there was a lot of connection. There was a lot of adults that had failed him. There was a lot of need to make sure that the people that he loved and cared about would come back. And so one day, I think he was in first grade or
Yeah, he was like 7 probably.
and so year and a half, 2 years ago, he was at a friend's house and their parents had a significant argument that really scared him. Volumes were loud in their tone, and I mean it wasn't physical
They
or
weren't
anything like
physical.
that, but it was
It
really
was a
it was
loud
something that
argument.
he wasn't exposed to as far in our home, with the loud volume and really an argument that was quite intense, and it really scared him. And when he came home that day, he was very quiet. He was very, we knew something was wrong. And at 7 year old, we're like, what's going on? He's like, nothing. He didn't know how to say it. But eventually, as we started to pay attention to his needs throughout the rest of the day, he came up to me right after he was already supposed to be in bed. And he said, Daddy, are you and mommy going to get divorced? And I was like, what in the
Yeah.
world? And as we started to talk, one of his best friend is a single mother that is raising his best friend. His other best friend, their parents fight frequently, and then he had that experience that day, and so that was throwing him back to his memories of foster care. At 11 months old, you wouldn't think he had many memories, but he
He
sure
has so
does.
many
And so
memories.
that was taking him to an environment that he didn't want to be, and he was afraid that because everyone around him at the moment was getting divorced or was fighting. I didn't even know a 7 year old knew what divorce was, but he said, are you and mommy going to get divorced? And I said, no, buddy. I love your mom. There might be arguments, there might be issues, but we're going to work together as a team. We love you, we love each other, and we're going to fight through anything, regardless of how challenging it is. And that was so reassuring to him that life, just because life is hard doesn't mean it's gonna end in a divorce or things like that. And so I think the thing that would help for me to reconnect would, I would just really evaluate, where am I right now? Where have I been? Where do I want to be? And I would make sure that my stories are in alignment. So I would look at my story. Okay, here's my current thing. Here's where my connection is. Here's where my relationships are in my home, with myself, with my spouse, with my kids. This is where I want to be. And is the story that I'm telling myself right now in alignment to where I want to be? And when I'm talking about, am I telling myself right now the story that I want? Did I do my best? Am I being kind? Am I doing those things? And if the answer is no, then I need to make an adjustment. And there's no shame in admitting that you're wrong or you made a mistake. In fact, that's crucial, that we're able to humble ourselves in a way to say, I'm sorry, to say that, oh, I need help. I fall short on this. I know I let you down here, but here's what I'm going to do to make up for it. And so for me, if I had an issue with my connection, or I knew I let JoJo down or my kids down, I would really just own it. I would be like, okay, here's the things that I did. This is not where I want to be. This is where I would much rather be. These are the things that I will personally do. These are the things that I'm committing to. Can you accept my apology? And what do you need from me? I will straight up ask them, what do you need from me? How can I rise up? How can I step up my game? How can I show up better, even though I've fallen short before? And let them say whatever their response is. If it's hard for me to hear, good. Then take action and own it. And if it is hard to hear, then don't shut it down or don't just push it to the side. But that's really their wants, their needs. And now I have to evaluate, is that something that is accurate? Is it a little bit coming from harsh feelings or things like that? Or am I really, did I make that big a mistake? And wherever you can fit, okay, that's a little bit harsh, or that's the reality, and that's just the way that it is. And so we have to be able to pick ourselves up from wherever we used to be and where we currently are, and get back to where we are. Because if you fall short or if you go backwards a little bit, you don't have to stay there. And I think this is why you're asking that question, is because a lot of people do stay there. They go up, they make a little bit of progress, and they go backwards a little bit, and then they stay where the reverse was a little bit too long. And so I think for us, just really be real. What happened? Where are we? What changes can I make? Not what changes do you need to make, but what changes do I as an individual need to make? Where did I fall short? Where's my responsibility in this? Because I can always find a reason that it's someone else's fault. I can always find a reason why, oh, you did this, so I did that, so therefore it's your fault because you did that first. Like I can always do that, but that's not gonna fix my struggle. That's not gonna wake me up from that nightmare experience that you shared, that my connection was off and I need to do some work to repair it. And so I think the biggest thing is just own it. Be real, be humble, and willing to communicate what they are. Because one thing that, if we've fallen short, now we have an expectation that we may not have communicated. You told me you're going to fix this, so I expect you to fix it, but you haven't communicated to me what fixing it looks like. Or how would I know that I've won once I've made that mistake? How have I brushed off the dirt and got up to a level where I needed to be because you've challenged me to rise up? How do I know that I've risen up? How do I know that I've made a correction to my mistake? And so once we have that situation, we look at it true on face value. Where is it? What are we doing? And now what are the expectations? And not just what are the expectations, but what do I need to articulate so the expectations are clear, both for myself, for my spouse, so we both can grow together. Because a marriage is two. You're a team. It's not an individual. And if I'm bringing us down to a level that I'm not where I want to be, that affects her too. And she could bring me back up as well as me bringing myself up. And so if we are a team and her expectations are clear and my expectations of how I'm going to make a change are clear, then when it takes a little bit longer than I hope, she's still on my side instead of rooting like you let me down again.
Yeah. And I would just add to that. I would say that it is all about the communication of it. Let them know, ask them, what do I need to do? How can I improve to meet your needs? And find out what their needs are, because that's the first place to start. If you don't know what your spouse's needs are, then start there and ask them, what needs do you need to have me accomplish? Is it that I'm not filling up your love language? Like, am I not present enough? Am I not, like, what areas do I need to improve? Do what Cory said, utilize what they had told you, and then keep them as accountability and saying, look, this week I'm really working hard on, let's say, serving you better. Can you just let me know on days that I'm doing a good job? Like, if your love language is words of affirmation, let them know. And so I think having that open line of communication while you're on the bridge of fixing things and restructuring things, that can go a long way, because then they see you're making progress and they know it's not just an empty promise if you lack on one day. Like, because we all have those days where it's one day is great and the next day you may not be as great. It's all just like parenting. Some days you're amazing at it, other days you're totally not, and next day you can try again. And it's the same with marriage. And I think that's one of the biggest aspects, is keeping your partner understanding and saying, look, this is the thing I'm working on this week. If I'm doing a good job, can you just let me know? If I need to improve a little bit, just let me know. And I know sometimes it's really hard to hear, because if you feel like you're failing in that aspect and then your spouse says you're failing in that aspect, it can be really hard to move forward. But the important thing of life is that we all have to move forward. We have to do this. This is something that we do.
And I'm pretty confident if you find yourself in that scenario that was Monica's question, I'm pretty confident that you're going to feel alone, or the tendency,
Yeah.
many people will feel alone. Oh, I've got this issue and now I got to fix it. And they don't know how to receive the support from their spouse. They don't know how to coach their spouse to give them the proper support. But if we really turn to our spouse and let them guide us, we can do it together as a team. I think
Yeah.
of, like, maybe we're going on a rafting trip and I've fallen out of the boat. Jojo's sitting there in the calm waiting for me, but there's nothing she can do. I have to swim through the storms of life to get back in this boat. And that could be very lonely. It could be cold. It could be tiring if I did it myself, but maybe she could bring the boat a little bit closer, or maneuver the boat to a place where it's not so stormy, where it's not so calm, where the current isn't so strong, that I could swim to the boat and make it better. So maybe she can meet me somewhere, so my progress, my improvement doesn't have to be so intense, so the gap isn't so big. And I think that is where a lot of people are going to struggle when they do find themselves in this scenario that you asked about, is they're going to feel like they've now lost their teammate and they have to do it alone. And if you communicate those expectations or coach them on how they can support you through this progress, you're not going to you're not going to try to get in the boat by yourself. Your partner is going to be bringing the best they can and help you get back in the boat. You don't have to swim so far. It's not going to be so hard. And that's a mistake that I want to warn most people about, is that you will find yourself alone if you are not intentional to do it this way, to tell your spouse, okay, this is where I struggle. This is what I need help from. You've told me how I can improve. I've coached you on how you can support me. Because even if I make a mistake, doesn't mean I need to be left alone. I
Yeah.
probably need more help at that time.
Yeah, really great points. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Will you tell the viewers where they can find you, learn more about, please let us know where we can find all the goodness.
Yeah. So we have a Facebook group, Strong Business, Stronger Marriage. And then we have our podcast, Strong Business, Stronger Marriage. We have our family strong best. That was too many strongs in there.
I thought I'm not the only one that makes that mistake.
Oh, and it's even our business, right? So it's the letter R, family strong best.
Thank you guys so much for your time today. To learn more ways to deepen your intimacy and strengthen your relationship, make sure you watch this video next.